What's your name?
Paul Reid, R-E-I-D.
Paul Reid. What led you to join the military, and how did you feel about going to Vietnam at the time?
Okay, you're gonna have to speak up. I'm kind of hard of hearing.
Yes, sir. What led you to join the military, and how did you feel about going to Vietnam at the time?
I'm going to tell you why I joined the military, okay? My parents moved from Boston to New Hampshire when I had finished the 4th grade in Boston. We moved to New Hampshire, my mother put me back in the 4th grade. So I was kind of angry. But anyway, when I got to the 11th grade, the class secretary asked me how old I was. And I told her, I said, I'll be 19 on my next birthday. And that was in October when she asked me. My birthday's in December. So the next day I went and joined the Navy. I liked the Navy, I really did. I wanted to get away and, you know, I was 19 years old and I was ready to go. So I joined the Navy, yeah. I loved it. Loved every day I was there. If I had it to do over, I'd be there first thing in the morning, yeah.
How did your friends and family react when you told them you were going to war?
Now that's a different story. They weren't too happy about me going to Vietnam, but they didn't have any choice. We had just put a new ship in commission, and it was a new type of destroyer escort, and that was her first cruise, was to go to Vietnam to war. We went over to Longapo in the Philippines and home ported there for 6 months, and they weren't too happy. My wife was home alone with 2 children at that time, and she wasn't too happy. I wasn't too happy either, but it was the duty I had to do. Mm-hmm. And I was fine. My family wasn't, but I was.
Yes, sir. What were your first thoughts when you arrived in Vietnam?
Whew. Well, being on a ship and being in a war zone, if you will, is a little different than being on the ground or being in the Army or whatever. I'm not saying one's any better or worse, but it's a little different situation. We always had a place to sleep, always had a place to eat, so we were comfortable, and there was no reason for us to be too upset, Of course, being shot at ain't a lot of fun either, but, I was okay. Yeah.
Can you describe a typical day during your deployment?
A typical day? Well, excuse me, I have to do a little more explanation there to answer your question. When we first left the United States, I was a first-class petty officer, okay? And a month into the cruise, I became a chief petty officer, okay? So there's a difference in the lifestyle of a first class and a chief on board ship. Chiefs have their own quarters, E7s and above. E7's a chief, 8s, 9s, we all in one place, okay? So the living conditions were a little different, but again, your question was?
What was it like a typical day like?
Ooh. Well, my job was to keep the engine room running and keep I was an engineer, machinist mate, and my job was to keep the engine room running. And I had a good crew of boys men, I should say, who done the job very well. And it's a constant when you light that engine room off and get it ready to go to sea, it's a constant watch. You cannot turn your back on it. You got to pay attention. to what's going on, because it's critical.
Yes, sir. Keep it. Oh, that's a good question. What kind of living conditions did you experience?
There's another change. When we first, when we first got underway, the crew lives in the living compartment. You have a bunk bed and you have a locker that you keep your clothes in. I moved into the chief's quarters. It's a little different. The chief's quarters have their own eating facility in the quarters, their own sleeping conditions in the chief's quarters than the enlisted, and a bunk bed and a locker, and it's the same basically, but it's different. It's because of the increase in pay, you know.
How did you and others in your unit stay motivated during such difficult times?
Well, you know, when you're at sea like that, they don't have much choice but to be motivated. They, you know, it's get the job done, and get out of there, and get back home. That was the job. We, during the daytime hours, when we were at sea, we were escorting aircraft carriers, okay? Especially when they were launching and landing aircraft, there had to be a small ship close by in case one missed or something like that. At night, that's a totally different ball game. We were off chasing aircraft carriers, and we were offshore bombarding, you know, shooting. And it's a tense, if you will, it's a tense moment all day long. And you get used to that, and you just get tense yourself and stay that way. You know, you kind of fall in line, if you will. But I was glad to be there. I was proud to be there. I really was. I had two brothers in the Second World War. I had one brother in the Korean War. And I spent, you know, my Vietnam War over there. So I was used to being away, if you will. But because I had my own wife and children too, that made that different for me, okay.
Did you witness or experience anything that fundamentally changed your views on the war or military scene?
Again?
Did you witness or experience anything that fundamentally changed your views on the war or military scene?
No, we had a job to do, we went and done it. No. When you sign the paper and sign in the military, when you put your name, they're the boss, they're in charge. You got to follow the line, you know. It's just like being a nurse here. They have guidelines that they have to live by. We had guidelines that we lived by, and we had to. And those of us, or those that didn't, they didn't last very long. Okay, they were gone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What was your return to the U.S. like, and how were you received by the public?
Good heavens. Okay, when I left, like I said before, I was the first class, and when I came home, I was chief. So that's the first time my wife seen me in my chief's uniform. Was the day we pulled in to Newport, Rhode Island, and that as a chief, and it was an awesome experience. It really was. I made a lot of deployments in my 31 years in the Navy, but that one was the best.
Yes.
It really was. Yeah. It was. You were welcome home to. It was back in those days. There was a lot of anti-military, war stuff going on, and you had to be careful when you're out in town. If people knew you were military, they'd snub you. They wouldn't talk to you. They wouldn't, they were cruel and rude and whatever. But when we got home from Vietnam, and that it was almost over by that time, and it was different. It was different. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
What do you wish more people understood about the Vietnam War and those who served in it?
That's a tough question. Never thought about it. Most of us really didn't understand why we were there to begin with, you know. But when it comes down to it, if you're in the military, you do what they tell you to do. And if you have any complaints or you don't want to do that, you put in for transfer and go somewhere else. Or get out of the military. I think that comes with being a little military minded or structural minded. Okay, the military is very structured. Excuse me, or it used to be. I don't know what it's like now, but it's very structured, and you had rules and regulations you had to follow. We didn't really want to be there. Didn't want to be away from home, but there we were. So we had a job to do.
Is there a certain lesson or message that you would want to pass on to future generations about war and service?
You'll have to ask me that again.
Is there a certain lesson or message you want to pass on to future generations about war and service?
Well, yes, our country is precious. We have things that other people have no idea about. We have freedoms that other people don't have. We have access to things that other people have no access to at all. War is not fun. War is not, I don't think war is always the answer to things like that, but it has come down to that. But I've kind of lost. Give me that question one more time, please.
Just if there's any messages you want to pass on to future generations about war and services.
Well, that's a good question. Avoid it if you can. If the country can afford going to battle, going to war, sacrificing human beings, avoid it some way, somehow. Do it. Okay. Don't go just for the want to go.
Yeah.
Protect yourself, protect your home, protect what's yours. There's been a lot of good men who have lost their lives for us to be where we are today. I don't know. I think your daddy was in the military with me.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know about yours.
No, sir. My grandpa was.
Oh, okay. Is he alive?
No, sir. But he passed from cancer.
Okay. But this country is worth, and this freedom that we have is worth that if it comes down to it. If there's any way around it, do it. If not, do it.